We're live.
All right, well, hey, this is Chad Bowman with the City of Decatur, and coming to you a little different today. We're here virtually on Talking with Tab, and I'd like to begin by thanking everyone for checking on Sherry and I as we've kind of walked through this path with COVID. Um, this it's been a week today since we tested positive, and feel great. Received excellent treatment. We're so thankful for the care of our primary physician and the great folks with Decatur Morgan. Everything that has been done to help us get to this point. We know that we have others in our community that are hurting. We have some that are grieving, and just ask that you continue to pray for them and their families, and that you do the things that follow the guidelines, please, so that we can get past this. And then, of course, we have vaccinations that are coming out, some new timelines on those that you'll see soon. But today, we're joined by another honored guest for our Friday's Talking with Tab, and it's my friend, Mr. Stratton Ord. Stratton, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Mayor. Pleasure to be with you.
Yes, sir. Now, Stratton, you serve on the steering committee for the 6th Avenue Corridor Project and Streetscape Plan. And so, I talk about you serving on that project, but there was something that you were involved in a few years ago that kind of led up to this, and that was you were a co-chair on the One Decatur Long Range Plan. And that was a committee that was made up. Initially, it was supposed to be about 20 members, but there were so many excellent applications that were submitted that ended up managing 40, and the team that kind of worked with y'all to develop the plan said, hey, we can do that. We can manage 40 folks. And you guys did that, and kind of talk about that and One Decatur and how we got to this point, if you don't mind.
Sure, I'd be glad to, Mayor. Great question, because that is the impetus of what we're doing now with 6th Avenue was the One Decatur Plan, and there were three of us who were co-chairs of that group. Like you mentioned, it was supposed to be 20 or so on the steering committee, and ended up being 40 or so, which was just showed the interest and the desire of people in our community to get involved in this and figure out how we can chart a path forward to improving things. So one of the biggest things that came out of that process, which we had, I think we ended up having over 1,000 people attend community meetings and forums and provide feedback on the future of our city. And one of the things that consistently came out, it was always one or two in anything that we did, was this 6th Avenue corridor that we're talking about and that we're now working on. And that, I think I've heard you call it our front door to our city. And our city's a little bit unique because we have the front door, legally, when you get off the interstate, they're coming under 65, coming from Huntsville, that's the Decatur city limits. So there's a lot of our city that's in Limestone County, but in the public persona and perception of our city, it really is right here as you come over the bridge into Decatur. And so for today, our front door, for all practical purposes, is this bridge. And as you come over the bridge, and we have this beautiful waterfront, our marina, our water, our bridge, and so many great things to look at as you come in. But our residents said, we're dissatisfied with that first impression when you come over the bridge and what it looks like, what our image that is presented to a first-time visitor, a potential developer, a tourist, whoever that may be. We think we can do better than what that corridor looks like today. So that's one of the messages that came out loud and clear from the One Decatur process. So.
Okay, excellent. And it is what I really. It's almost like curb appeal, or your foyer when you make that first impression into your home, and we want something that we're proud of.
Yes, we're unique because we don't. Most of our visitors and potential residents, anybody new to our community, generally is going to come off the interstate. They're either going to come from the airport into here, they're going to come off I-65, and they're either going to come Highway 67 or this Highway 20, Highway 31, entrance across the bridge. And so, in a way, it's a blessing because our new people are basically funneled through one of two ways. And so we have a chance to get them. We don't have to address 12 different ways that most new residents come. We have to address two. And probably the lion's share of those, the first time they came into our city would be across this Highway 31 bridge. So that's where we're focused today.
Well, good. And thank you for, you work with a committee.
Yes, sir.
A lot of time given to this. Thank y'all for the time that you give. But you enlisted the help of, you did some interviews with different professional companies that specialize in doing things like this. And we ended up landing, or y'all landed really with, what's the name of the firm?
Volkert. And
Okay.
Volkert has a lot of experience all across the state, and we really felt like it was important to have someone who at the end of the day, 6th Avenue is Aldot's road, and they have total control over what happens within the right-of-ways of that road. And so we needed someone who knew the rules of projects like this, had experience throughout the state, and knew what Aldot would and would not allow. Instead of us going down a path that we come up with something that looks great to us, but we take to the highway department and they say that doesn't work within our rules. So Volkert's been a great partner. We're really blessed to get an $80,000 grant from the state to go toward their $100,000 cost, and then the city and the chamber and the DVRA kicked in the remaining local matching funds to get us to that amount to be able to bring in a professional group that has experience in these type of projects.
Okay, and so one of the wonderful skill sets that you have is the ability to implement, and kind of talk about how you started, and then the progress that's been made so far, and how you've the committee has tried to enlist the community along the way.
Well, you mentioned it earlier. This grew out of, you mentioned the One Decatur plan. Then the chamber took that and formed several committees coming out of that plan, and one of those was residential development. Jack Fife has been chairing that residential development, and you hear that loud and clear throughout our community. We desire residential growth, and so Jack early on got the developer of Providence in Madison County to come over and speak to our residential development group. And he spoke, it was about an hour meeting, and I would say 50 of those 60 minutes he spent talking about this corridor, this first impression. And his feedback was, you guys have a wonderful city, a lot of wonderful things going on, but in his opinion, nothing was going to happen from a residential development standpoint until we do something about this front door. And we spent most of that meeting talking about that. And so that resonated a lot with our group. And so at that point, Jack said, we need to have a separate group that focuses on just this piece. And so putting together that committee has made all the difference, because we have a very good group of people with different skill sets and represent different parts of the city, from DU to DVRA to our former council member that represented that district, Christy Hill, and now Kyle Pike, who represents District 2, is serving on that committee. Just multiple people with different skill sets and knowledge bases to help on this. So that's been the biggest piece, is just getting the right people in the room who can speak to these different pieces. Forrest Temple with Temple, who does in the traffic signal world, been a wonderful resource. Have traffic engineers on staff, and this is the world he lives in, so he's been tremendous addition to our group. And so just having those people on, as far as a local committee, to work with Volkert and give them feedback from us who live here every day, it's really worked very well.
Good. So I'm sure that our viewers are eager to know when they will have an opportunity to see what's been done. Any timeline on that?
Mayor, what we talked about most recently is ideally Volkert will be here in February, at some point in February, to present to the council what we've come up with. We actually just had a meeting with Aldot on Wednesday of this week, because as I mentioned, at the end of the day, they have to bless anything we do. So we had a very productive meeting with them, met with the city's Parks and Rec department the same day, because they'll be a key part of this, from landscaping and beautification standpoint, that component, it's not just a beautification project, but that's certainly a big part of it. And so we're hopeful that we'll have Volkert here in February to present to the council.
Okay, good. Now, something that I made a lost out on there, kind of where does it start? And it's really two phases, but name the two phases, if you will.
Yeah, our corridor that we have worked on, and 6th Avenue is a long road, means different things to different people, but we decided we had to focus out of the gate and wanted to have something to show for our efforts. So we focused on the stretch from the Highway 31 bridge, Wilson Street, down to Delano Park. So that would be Prospect Drive on the south side of Delano Park. So that's the corridor that this project has encompassed. Volkert has looked at it and given us a way to do it in two different phases, if either from a funding standpoint or a manpower standpoint we need to. And phase one would be from the bridge to Lee Street, and really creating a really attractive, well-functioning entry, kind of grand entrance to downtown there at Lee Street and 6th Avenue. And then phase two would be from Lee Street down to Prospect Drive. So, in a perfect world, we would do all of this in one undertaking from the bridge all the way to the Prospect Drive. But if we, for whatever reason, need to break it into components, those are our how Volkert has kind of guided us to think about this.
Thank you. So it's amazing and what you can see beginning to unfold at the Lee Street, 6th Avenue intersection where Lucky's was demoed, right. And just the line of sight through there now where you see the former Regions Bank and knowing what can happen along the way.
Yes. And it's been interesting, we've seen on 2nd Avenue and Bank Street and other parts of downtown how public investment has led to the private investment following. And so those of us who have lived here long enough to know what 2nd Avenue and Bank Street looked like 10 years ago before the public investment was made can appreciate how that public investment led to the people investing in their buildings and new construction taking place throughout our downtown. But the public step was step one. And for us to look like a community that cares about how things look and walkability and safety and all those things when you start getting into the traffic world we're starting to see the fruits of that investment that the city and others made in our downtown. So this, in our view, this is the next logical step of the progress that's been made downtown, is to expand our concept of downtown and that walkable area with a well-functioning 6th Avenue. This, in our view, is the next step in that.
Thank you. I think you've seen it. Rick Paler put together a wonderful slideshow that shows the before and after transformation of our downtown area, and it's just amazing what has taken place there. But oftentimes, and by no fault of anyone's, it's just we forget that what it used to look like as opposed to how lovely it looks now.
We really do, don't we? You see those pictures that Rick has, and you say, I've kind of forgotten it looked like that. It wasn't very good, but
that's right.
Boy, it's really improved.
So, boy, it's kind of a big question here, but just from your mindset, how do you think a project like this is going to help us brand our city in a positive way?
Yeah, I think I touched on it a minute ago, just to create that impression of that when you come into the heart of Decatur on 6th Avenue, that this is a city that cares about how it looks and how these streets function, walkability, which is a big buzzword that you hear a lot, and different ways of mobility, and the city can control what's within the right of way as far as AlDOT allows it to be controlled. And so we need to take advantage of that, and we need to have this make a positive first impression on developers, on businesses looking to move. And we're in this as well as anyone, you do it all day. There's competition for these residents moving to North Alabama, and we need to win that competition. And part of winning that competition is when people drive into our city, what are their first impressions? Is this a place they say, I want to know more about this place, I want to look at homes, I want to consider investing here? Or do they say, this is maybe not the place for us, honey. Let's go look at the next town and see if that's where we want to move. There's a stat that came out. United Van Lines puts out a survey every year of the whole country of where people moving and where they're moving from and where they're moving to. And Huntsville, which I think of as North Alabama, number 4 in the country for highest percentage of people moving in versus moving out. And there's nothing to indicate to any of us that that's going to abate anytime soon. So there are way more people moving to North Alabama than moving out. And you hear this anecdotally around town, people's housing values and houses being sold above asking price. And I put up a sign one afternoon and had 5 contracts by lunch the next day. There's just so much of that chatter. And so the movement into this greater Huntsville, North Alabama area is tremendous, and we've got to win and get our fair share of the pie as a city.
Well, the ball is definitely rolling. We've had momentum, even in light of COVID, and that's even more encouraging. But we're very fortunate, as you can imagine, with our economy and all that's taking place in Decatur and Morgan County, North Alabama, job opportunities, and that's going to sustain us as it relates to new residents coming in. Thank you for the efforts that are being put in. So we're going to hope to see the residents to be able to see this in February. We just finished up a very productive meeting, as you mentioned, with AlDOT, and as you noted, it's ultimately their road. But it was encouraging. I think I can say this safely that during the meeting that we had with AlDOT, some of the goals and the work that Volkert has done in the design of the work along the corridor, AlDOT seemed to find favor with, because these are things that they're trying to do throughout the state and on some of their other roadways.
Well, and you mentioned it, safety is always a big component of anything that AlDOT looks at. And the safety piece of this has been significant from day one, and we all know how close those wooden power poles are to Highway 31, to 6th Avenue. And one of our desires is to get those moved back behind the sidewalks, and so that if someone does jump the curb, they're not right there on a utility pole. And so that's a piece. The left turns, which are always kind of points of conflict, trying to help manage those better, and just to increase the safety and the function of 6th Avenue, and the traffic will move more smoothly and more efficiently through this corridor.
Actually get the utilities underground, right?
That's a goal of this project, and will that mean every last line? That remains to be seen. But to improve, that's just another piece of improving the appearance and the visual clutter, and to try to create a more welcoming environment, which we believe very firmly will lead to increased property values for everyone in this corridor, all the business owners and other institutions along the way.
Right. I think people would just be, and they drive by it all the time and maybe just don't pay attention, or notice that Central United Methodist Church, while just a lovely place of worship, basically sits right on the highway. There's very little room to do anything through there, and that's going to be an area that take a lot of engineering.
Yeah.
All right, Stratton. So last question. Something you have to share. I know you a little bit, and you're always kind of forward thinking. What you got your eye on next?
That was a loaded question. What do you? I feel like there was a hook there that I didn't grab. Well, if you're talking about 6th Avenue,
Decatur. I want to go back to One Decatur. Okay. So what you did on One Decatur, okay. And I know that there's that's One Decatur is really a map for us now to follow as we do things in planning for our city, to try to make improvements that was through the community meetings and such, and what we ultimately developed as a plan. And then annually or throughout the year, we're constantly looking at the progress that's being made as it relates to that plan, and updating the plan, making adjustments to it. So and in your mind, as one of those 3 co-chairs and part of the committee, what would be next?
Mayor, just my opinion would be be the opportunity that we have to continue this project really north through our bridge and causeway, and then on into the Decatur part that's in Limestone County, because that is a blank, clean slate. And with this overpass project being implemented and the accessibility that should open up both north and south sides of Highway 20, you can't ask for a better piece of developable real estate in North Alabama than that area right there next to I-65, visibility, traffic points, all those things. And but we've not had access prior to this to the overpass. It's that I know you put a lot of work into, and the council's put a lot of work into. So to think about what the future of this city could be as that area builds out, when we went through One Decatur, somebody made the point that there is as much acreage in Decatur in Limestone County as in all of southeast Decatur, and that put it in perspective just what an opportunity there is there. That's essentially just land waiting to be developed, and you couldn't ask for more positive components there. So we need to plan well and not let it develop on its own, but to be growth that we look back 10 years, 20 years, 50 years from now when we're all gone, and people say this is such a wonderful place, and this was really done well, done right, something our city's proud of.
Right. So good land use, the planning, all of that. But we know that it's a given that, and we're already seeing it. And thankfully we've received a little relief. If there's any blessing that came through COVID, it's been teleworking as we are widening 565. But we know we're going to see increased traffic counts out there once all the commerce starts taking place with producing 1,000 cars a day and 4,000 workers, and all the other things that are taking place with FBI agents coming into the area, workers coming into Decatur. And so that's just going to be a wonderful area to develop. And we have right of entry there for starting the overpass. We pushed it out a couple of weeks only because we're going into the wintertime. And so trying to do any kind of site work right now just wouldn't really be practical. So we should see that site work begin in March. And we believe that once that starts, that folks that have been knocking on our door wanting to come in and do business in Decatur and invest in that area will want to start doing that. But it's going to come with some infrastructure cost. And to get that area suitable for building. And then once businesses, homes, all types of developments take place in that area, we're going to need a fire department there. So it's definitely exciting times, and it's fun to be working with this new city council and the vision that they have and the way that they're working together as a team for the good of the city of Decatur. So Stratton, go ahead, buddy.
No, I was just going to say you and the council have been very supportive of this whole project, and can't thank you enough for that encouragement. It means a lot, and to have you saying this is important and something that that has the support of the council and that you realize and acknowledge is a need in our city. It means a lot. And I just think we have such a tremendous opportunity. People are moving to places like this. You mentioned the work from home and distance working. People no longer need to be in the major cities to have those jobs. We've seen that, and I don't think that trend is reversing anytime soon. And so we are so well positioned to win. We have so many amenities and so many positives in this community that the opportunity is right on the table for us, and this is one of those things that I think can help us win that opportunity.
It's a wonderful community for sure. Stratton Orr, thank you for joining us today. You did well. Appreciate you. Appreciate your team.
Thank you. Glad you're feeling better, and look forward to seeing you back in your office.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right, to our viewers, thank you for joining us today. We'll be back this time next week at 3 o'clock. Thank you.